Hi guys, it's Evelyn from Twin Flames 3344. I'm just doing the Divine Feminine reads for today, which has plenty of Divine Masculine stuff in it. And I'll do the Oracle cards as well. I just kind of want to feel into it today. I had a little bit of a purge last night, so that'll come into some of the messages from today. And it is September 16th, 2018. It is the Tower energy today. And the day adds up to 36-9, which is the 10 of Wands. You know, so it's that carrying so much burden that you know, you're going to drop any minute. So with the Tower and the 10 of Wands, it's really about ending the burden, okay? Because just can't take it anymore. Which kind of was about my purge last night, which actually was today because it went in after midnight last night. So, and it was triggered by you know, just listening to outside things that make you believe things that you know are not true. So it's just a little bit of detachment, but it was needed, and it was good because it was just about loving yourself, you know, even when you do fall apart. I couldn't go to sleep afterward. I was fine, and then I couldn't go to sleep, and I'm like, oh great, now I can't fall asleep. So I went back and did the same thing that made me purge in the first place, because it was allowing myself to have done something that maybe wasn't for my highest good, that wasn't making me feel good. I went back to the same thing where I could watch that and allow it to make me, and allow it to feel good instead of feel negative, or just allowing myself to have done that. So it's just about loving yourself either way, okay? About forgiving yourself and not expecting yourself to be perfect. And so then when I woke up this morning, I just went into my YouTube to just check my comments, and someone had subscribed, and it was Unconditional Love, which was, you know, the perfect message. So thank you, Unconditional Love, for subscribing. I watched the movie The Angel last night, which isn't something I normally like to watch. It was very political, and it was about betrayal between countries. You know, a double agent type person. And it was also about the boy who cried wolf, and spirits connecting with me. Because, you know, it starts out, I'm trying to remember how I felt about this person. It was called the Angel. So in the beginning, you know, he comes off as a bit of a player because he's married, and then he's messing around when he goes out with his friend, you know, with this other actress woman, and he's very political. He's the husband of the daughter of the president of Egypt at the time. So he comes off kind of skanky that way, but then he gets into a mess politically that he can't get himself out of, and he doesn't get along with her father and is trying to figure out how to get around this. So angry with her father, goes to Israel to try to connect with the Israeli president to give him some insider information about Egypt. Doesn't get through. He didn't want to give his name, but he was kind of forced to if he wanted to get through, and then he did give his name and he couldn't get through. And then they refused to put him through, which is exactly what he didn't want to happen, because now they have his name. And then the father-in-law dies. So now what? Now Israel has his name. He didn't help them, but they have his name that he was offering information. And now there's a new president. That was Sadat. And what was he going to do now? So now he gets sucked into being, you know, a spy for Israel, but kind of a double agent, going back and forth between them. And he tells them when the war is going to start, when Sadat's going to start war, and then he ends up changing his mind. So he was the boy who cried wolf. And then on the third try, when he was really telling them when he was going to start the war, they didn't believe him, so they didn't do anything about it, and that's when it really happened. But he ends up being, he was being in his truth at the end. He wasn't lying to either side, except for the fact that he was telling both sides. And it ended up, he ended up being positive a hero, according to the movie, in the eyes of both countries in the end. So it was about the boy who cried wolf, right? So be careful how you behave when you're not your truth, because then when you really do become your truth, someone might not believe you. And then his wife left him too, even though he used this actress to get him to help him take pictures just in case, to protect him. And she always wanted to sleep with him, but he turned her down. And he used her again for help and information, and she came on to him again, and he turned her down. But the wife ended up getting a picture of him through the window of her trying to kiss him, and of course believed that, and he couldn't fight it because he couldn't expose all the information that he was dealing with because it was so political. Anyway, getting too much into it, but maybe the Divine Masculine is being put in that situation now in his karmic relationship where he cried wolf, and so the third time the karmic doesn't believe him anymore. Or the twin doesn't believe him anymore. So either way that goes, that energy was coming up. So today is very much about self-judgment on both parts of the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine. You detach from yourself when you judge yourself. So to love yourself no matter what. If it doesn't feel good, let go. So it is Sunday. The major arcana that came up for the Divine Feminine were the Sun today and the Emperor. And the Sun is out. It's a beautiful day today here. The Sun is all about empowering, right? It's literal energy. And then the Emperor is about controlling that power. But this is for the Divine Feminine. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, this was not. This was not. This was last night, and this was at 12. I'm not going to go into this information, but this was for the Divine Masculine, the Sun and the Emperor, last night at 12:12, and the number 44 came up with that. For the Divine Feminine, something else that came up on because I got that unconditional love, I was guided to a Teal Swan video, which was titled Walk-In Books. So walk-ins were coming up. But it was really trying to get us to, to stop looking outside yourself, be in your knowing, and stop beating yourself up when you feel like you can't figure something out, or you can't make a decision, or you're just uncomfortable inside your skin. It's because, it's darkest before the dawn. So when you need to cry, let it out, because this is the reset. This is when the epiphany comes out. Allow yourself as well as others unconditional love. Even when you think you're not being worthy of love, you are, no matter what. Don't judge yourself. And if you do, then love it. Love that too. Let go, surrender. Stop trying to control. And whether it's the Divine Feminine or Divine Masculine, again, it's affecting us both, because we're both integrating our inner Divine Masculine and Feminine. So then, before I started the read for the Divine Feminine this morning, I went outside to put my feet in the grass, and just feeling kind of hungover from crying last night. And there were wishes everywhere to the left. and a butterfly by the backyard. I grounded, and then I stepped 2 steps to the left to make myself in alignment with the wishes. And when I did that, the wishes all stopped. So I went back 2 steps. When I went back 2 steps, a few wishes came back, but more apparent was that there were 2 butterflies frolicking and loving each other. And then the download and spirits connecting with me that butterflies are free to fly. Fly away, high away, bye-bye. Reminding us that we're free, and we have to allow others to be free. And what is that saying? You know, if you love someone, let them go. If they come back to you, then they're yours. If they don't, they never were. Butterflies are free to fly, fly away, high away, bye-bye. Elton John. You cannot contain a wish or love to set them free and stay on your path. Allow your vibration to draw in what you need at the moment to feel good. Okay, so stay on your path. Don't try to force the jumping of the timelines. Stay on your path. Do what makes you feel good. So for the Divine Feminine today, it was just all about the moon. So interesting that the Divine Masculine at 12:12 this morning got the Sun and the Emperor, which is all about power and control, and the Divine Feminine got Luna, which is all about the Divine Feminine energy and emotional, being very emotional and dark. There were 3 pentacles and 4 cups, 2 wands, and 1 sword. So it's very much about the emotions. But you notice only 1 sword came up. But that was this morning after I had purged already. So it's saying, you know, you release all the head stuff when you purge, very much in the emotions, but now not in the head anymore. There were, the court cards were the King of Cups, the Knight of Pentacles, and also the 9 of Pentacles, which isn't a court card, but I bring it up because it's often seen as a character for me. The numbers that came up were 11, 44, 3512, 3421, 13, I said 44 already, and then 14 also. The coding had to do with what we've just been talking about, self-judgment and the emotion, the stirring of the heart, sitting in that. I was getting the Wounded Warrior again in the coding, but it's also, today is the 10 of Wands, and the 9 of Wands right before that, which was yesterday, is the Wounded Warrior. So it was the Wounded Warrior going into that hanged man energy, you know, hanging himself, hanging ourselves when we judge ourselves, right? That's the hangman, final judgment. So we're going in today, instead of letting yourself off the hook, moving to the 10 of Wands, which is where you just can't take it anymore and you fall apart. It's that stirring of emotions. And it was coming up, and I kept figuring, why are you telling me it? And it was about I-T, because T is 20, which is judgment. I, judgment. Self-judgment. Okay, this came up for the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine, that they were both judging themselves. When you want to sit in it, the Wounded Warrior wants to sit in his emotions. It's like sulking, right? It's going to take you deeper and deeper into that wound until you let it out. You let it free, which is the purge. And I was also getting the code 3, expand 1, in order to stir up these emotions of self-judgment. So in other words, you know, Trinity, so God and Jesus and Sophia, were coming in to stir up the emotions of self-judgment to bring that wound up for examination. So for the Divine Feminine, not allowing feelings to be expressed, sitting in emotions in order to work through them, brings syncs and choices, brings up a sore spot to be looked at. that moon energies are blocking 2 of 3 cups to be exposed. The little girl is reaching out to her lost self in order to integrate the 4D bridge opening. I was also getting a nutcase awakened, a light bulb moment, someone being seen as a nutcase, and I was getting that actually on the Divine Masculine side. But it was a light bulb moment to boldly moving, ascending, powerfully within your great quietness, integrating polarity consciousness. It is black and white. If it feels good, it feels good. If it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good, and it's not right for you. Okay, so the 2 light bulb moments were coming up, an illumination, okay? And it was like one was for the Divine Masculine, one was for the Divine Feminine. But the Divine Masculine, he must have disclosed something about his abilities or something that his partner or his family doesn't agree with in their beliefs. And that was what he was holding back about himself, and he was now being called a nutcase. But for the Divine Feminine, also having that illumination, sometimes babies need to cry. So sometimes your inner child needs to cry. It's natural for a baby to cry, isn't it? It's a natural release. So allow yourself to cry. Don't judge yourself for crying. Getting over loss of feeling like you want to die, or in other words, escape pain. Maybe feeling the Divine Feminine I was getting, bringing in their mother's anger, possible near-death experiences, and having to come back to a prison if you choose pain. So you only have to go back to the prison once you escape the prison if you decide to choose pain again. And then unrequited love comes up. So again, this is very much about, you think it's the unrequited love of your twin, but it's really you judging yourself, the unrequited love of self. Allowing yourself to feel pain. If it was your child, would you allow them to continue to feel pain? No, you'd try to talk to them and give them a new perspective so that they won't feel pain anymore. And that's what you need to do for yourself. The inner union struggle has come out for the Divine Feminine. And there was an analogy here about when the Divine Feminine wants to die, because they just, they're in that purge and they're crying and they don't want to feel the pain anymore. The Divine Masculine detaches from self. So that's like the trigger. So if the Divine Feminine wants to escape, so does the Divine Masculine, but they do so in different ways. The Divine Feminine does it in an emotional way. The Divine Masculine does it in an unemotional way, detaching completely from emotions. So the Divine Feminine, too emotional. And then came up specifically the farmer in the dell. I'm like, all right, what are you trying to tell me about the farmer in the dell? What does it mean exactly again? I can't remember, so I looked it up. And it was saying it was German based, so it might be something about Germany. Could be Holocaust wounds as well. But it was about the German farmer, okay? And ultimately it was being described as production and economy. That the farmer needs children for help. So he takes a wife. Then the wife takes a child, and the child takes a nurse, and the nurse takes the cow, and the cow takes the dog, and the dog takes the cat, and the cat takes the mouse. And the mouse takes the cheese, and the cheese stands alone. So it was about the cheese being the beginning of the production line, in a sense. But they were saying, although it should be the cow that takes the grass, because the grass takes the sun, and the sun stands alone, because grass is the primary consumer of sun, which transfers to the farmer and the wife, who then in turn make a living. And also it was bringing up that in the farmer in the dell, in the game, only 9 are chosen. So it's usually like a big group of more than 9, and only 9 get chosen to come into the circle. Okay? So again, we have the 9. And also choosing 9 over others. But they were saying then they would limit the groups to 9 so that all of the kids would get chosen and wouldn't feel bad. So also something that came up is that the farmer inspects the merchandise before purchase. However, the risk is that if the Divine Feminine that if the Divine Masculine comes forward because he wants inspection of the Divine Feminine, that he knows the Divine Feminine can inspect him right back, and thus he avoids. He didn't inspect the first one, and she now refuses her duties, and the children are falling in line with the karmic, and they're not helping either when it comes to the farmer in the dell. If, as the Divine Masculine, you are only the provider and the protector, and then can't provide or protect, then your contract is null and void. However, if we learn to take love, or if we learn to take care of ourselves fully, love ourselves fully, then we are fluid. And in relationship, we are then fluid within the relationship with each other. Because if you're interdependent and you're not depending on the other person to fulfill something for yourself, then you always are enjoying each other's company, because you're never blaming each other for something not done. If there's something you want done, you do it. You don't depend on someone else to do it. And if you've lived alone or been a single parent, you already understand that principle of doing everything on your own and not depending on anyone else. And that's a feeling that came up too. Then not wanting to depend on anyone else, not wanting to feel that feeling again, because it brings up the fear of what if they let go again, and now all of a sudden you have to get used to being totally dependent on yourself again, and not being able to, maybe not being as strong as you used to be. So these are all wounds that need to come up. The Divine Feminine is positioned toward the Divine Masculine in the read as the King and Queen of Pentacles. It was really funny because the Queen of Pentacles was positioned in her body facing the Divine Masculine, and the Divine Masculine's body was facing the Divine Feminine. However, the Divine Masculine was looking back over his shoulder, not looking at her, and then she's looking over, like, figures, he's facing me but he's avoiding again. It was showing that the Divine Masculine has been detached from his body. So even though sometimes he's resting or even trying to meditate, his head isn't in it. It's in another place. It's all about the money. Okay? So whether his body is trying to, physically get himself in a better place, his mind was still taking him somewhere else. He was being detached, all about the money or practical things. Detached from his body. But now, and that was in the past, he's become integrated into unconditional love, bringing the two together into his heart space, which then the King of Cups comes up. So recently, the Knight of Pentacles comes up, proposing a practical offer that possibly pisses off a karmic or a Queen of Wands, who thinks he's a nutcase and moves out. So this could be one scenario. He had been successful manifesting, but became exhausted financially supporting everyone in the family. And it could be just a practical support too, because not all the Divine Masculines are going to be the major breadwinner in their relationships. But it's just about loving support or financial support, whatever his role was in the relationship. All of a sudden he can't do it anymore because of exhaustion. And there's a lot of Cancer underlying energy here. It was the only major arcana, was the Moon. And then the Chariot comes up. It's all about Cancer. So there may be someone with Cancer as well. But I wasn't getting that next to like a card that would bring up illness. But you have exhaustion here. So there could be someone who has Cancer, but the energy was really more about just that, the Cancer sign energy, okay? Of the Moon and the Chariot, which can be very warlike because of emotions. This underlying energy of Cancer is fueling the karmic, clinging to warlike behavior. The foundation for the read had to do with boredom, resolved by stubbornness or refusing to work for the Divine Masculine. Could be the Divine Feminine as well, causing conflict, bringing out the energy of unrequited love. And who the true friends are. It was like the Divine Masculine or the Divine Feminine, like doing a protest, saying, no, I'm not going to do it anymore, to see who's drawn out, who really are your friends, who walks away, who defends you, who supports you. The Divine Feminine, receiving practical and financial advice from possibly a loving masculine source, or how to go forward as far as dealing with a female karmic in their life, or possibly mother issues for the Divine Feminine. Okay, so she has some positive support around her in a practical way, but also possibly dealing with feminine karmic issues also. And those issues may be attached to her, whether it's in a family way or a very close friend, where you feel what they feel. So it can rub off on you if they're in a negative place. In the central issue, it's about the Divine Feminine connecting to her Empress after her lover reflects lack of faith back to her. The karmic on the warpath with the Divine Masculine was reflecting back to the Divine Feminine and is draining lover. Okay, so the Empress refines her passion in a love tower moment. So there could be jealousy there on one part or the other, but having that tower moment in order to release, knocking self in the head moment, you know, like, reconnecting or connecting with the Emperor, who still has his back turned because of jealousy issues, needing still to have patience, balance, and moderation. The challenge for the Divine Feminine is kind of rotating or rolling back a little bit to fuel a conversation about sharing and equality in relationships, which is, you know, pretty much what we're talking about here. Is there really equality in the relationship? And if you're resolving your own pain issues, then that's not an issue, because you always take care of what's bothering you. You take care of your own pain. So then the equality in the relationship doesn't become an issue. It's just like kind of being more fluid, you know. If you feel like doing it, you do it. If you want to, and then the more loving you become to each other, the more you naturally want to do those things for each other. But not doing it because someone's saying you have to, which then imprisons flames watching what others do. So if the Divine Masculine's like seeing other relationships that get along so well, it may be triggering him about wanting that equality in relationship. But the Divine Feminine kind of falling back a little bit, like I did last night, in order to take another look at equality in relationships and just self-judgment. When you're both judging yourselves, that's when the dynamic of the relationship gets tough. If you're not judging yourselves and you're just always fixing your own issues, then that's when there's more fluidity within the relationship. It becomes very flexible. So don't watch what others do as an example. You are becoming the example of what a relationship should be. The challenge for the Divine Feminine is that unconditional love, not just of others, which she naturally wants to do, but of herself. Now, both twins judging themselves, and Spirit's still connecting with me, for having a sad moment, but catching it and loving it. The dark and the light, in order to see the lesson and the reset. It is always darkest before the dawn. Which is interesting and funny, because I'm seeing my sister-in-law Dawn on Saturday. So, love the past. Love your bad past, your childhood past, all the things that were difficult for you as a child. Returning to those moments, allowing them to come up to release it. Okay? Allow it and love it, and then let it go. Return to your knowing, dump your burdens, and get over it, and back to unconditional love. The Empress is romantically tied to a jealous Emperor. Okay, so now we have the Emperor and the Empress as the twins coming up. The jealous Emperor angel imprisoned by thoughts of the Divine Feminine with someone else. So now the Divine Masculine's coming into what the Divine Feminine was dealing with for a long time. That jealousy, and still may having moments about that jealousy. So his jealousy of you is going to bring up your jealousy feelings that you had a long time ago. So don't be surprised if you feel this again. So again, there's a jealous Emperor, angel, imprisoned by thoughts of the Divine Feminine with someone else. while he sits satisfied in a narcissistic commitment, offering possible money or practical work for love, kind of selling himself. While the Divine Feminine is finding satisfaction on her own, offering herself a new life without getting hung up on expressing lots of feelings about it, rather allowing them to flow naturally with her guidance and her syncs about new love. Soon coming together, okay, and the Four of Wands is coming up here, without ego or arrogance, into union. The Divine Feminine is the diamond in the rough, always in need of polishing, always. That will never end. After the High Priestess, or secret third party through work, or creative venture, or being in her abilities but not getting along with others at work, rising above, possibly being up at night, and coming out of isolation. For the Divine Feminine, she's being called to let her friends help, give her relationship a chance, and also wedding, which has to do with marriage. So this union energy coming up could have to do with a current relationship that you're in, coming out of ego and settling things between you and your karmic relationship so you can let go. But also, that's the union of self, right? So when you're finally in union of yourself, then maybe you can, come to some kind of peaceful agreement with your karmic partner. But it's also about actual unions coming into union as well. So around the Divine Feminine, waiting for messages, integrating her emotions after possible sexual frustrations at this past full moon, and at night when she's alone, feeling weak, wanting to avoid the dance. It's hardest when it's nighttime and you're alone and you're feeling that. But to clear the blocks of truth. After a love message, hearing the call to end conflict. The wheel steers the ship now, northeast, whether you like it or not, per the Sphinx. Ignore the Rhine if it turns brown. So I was getting this picture of like an orange. So it was saying sometimes when there's some dirtiness there, just allow it to slough away. So when the outside of the orange turns brown, don't eat it. It's no longer good for you because it's dark. This was the analogy I was getting. Ignore the Rhine, but I was getting the Rhine as far as, Egypt. Ignore the Rhine if it turns brown or dark. You're going northeast. North, whichever way you're looking at it, but northeast, the positive direction, to the sunrise, to your North Star, whether you like it or not. And don't worry about the dark energies that are hiding underneath. Let them slough off. The outer peel reflects what's going on inside. So, that's why we want to slough off the dead skin. Let the new come out. Let the rejuvenated shine. You can transmute it before it seeps in to the inside. So even if a little dark comes up on the outside, let go of it before it seeps in, and so you won't purge. That's basically what it's saying. It's saying stay sharp and present. Do the work. And it's like the Sphinx scolding you. Do your homework. This is why the teacher must be stern at times, to get the point across to those flapping their wings. Solution is to enjoy your environment fully. Be wise and pure. Take off the mask when you go to bed with your lover, and let go of hang-ups. And Spirit's connecting with me. After recovering financially and practically and healing fully, holding back passion is like being a Scrooge, tempting you with 2 cups, but then having to go back into your knowing. You won't have to be on guard if you don't tempt yourself. Once the wound is brought to light, don't keep chocolate in the house if it makes you feel bad. And then the health card comes up. So it's all about your health. And it's not just about food. It's about what feels good. When your body feels good, it'll tell you what it wants and it'll be healthy. If you eat things that your body doesn't like, it's going to tell you, I feel terrible. Don't eat me anymore. Those things that make you feel bad, get them out of the house if they tempt you. And it's not just about food, it's also about people in your life. If there are people in your life tempting you and you know they're bad for you, get them out of your life. Purify your environment with only things that make you feel good, and be in your moderation. Sudden event of love betrayal, once the mask is removed, causes separation from a happy family with a King of Pentacles reversed, so him losing his money and status or just being greedy, and causing instability. And then we're getting to the Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups card literally was the last cup of the read, and today is, I mean, not Ten of Cups, Ten of Wands, and that's literally today. So it's like the Divine Masculine being in the Nine of Wands yesterday, the Wounded Warrior, and today the final straw hits, and he gets tipped to the Ten of Wands, and he's about to fall over. So there's instability there, so burdened, going to fall over at any moment. The full moon conflict produces diamond in the sky, and then I got Lucy in the sky with diamonds. So this can have to do with diamonds, but it also can have to do with drugs. There could be drug addicts here coming up. Messages of proposal to partner. This was also mostly, I was getting mostly positive. It wasn't really about drugs, but it was about possible engagements. Because I was getting from it messages of proposal to partner in unconditional love, union, and truth, going within and walking away to get your wish. Okay? So some beautiful and very poignant messages there. Just pull your oracle cards for you. Okay, we have the Ascension deck. Okay. Sorry, I was out in the sun sweating, so it was beautiful out today. It was nice to get out in the sun, because yesterday I went out, you know, changed, and went out to go out to the sun, and then the sun went behind the clouds and I never really got any sun, but today is beautiful. And so for the organic, divine masculine, divine feminine, twin flames, take a deep breath, let it out. What is the message? What is the message? The organic, divine masculine, divine feminine, twin flames. What is the message? What is the message? What is the message? Okay. Marco. The Sphinx also comes up as the underlying energy. Okay. Which is number 20, which I said is judgment. That's the letter T, is judgment. So I see T is temper tantrums. It's also, because it is judgment, judging yourself. Right. The final judgment. So the affirmation for the Sphinx is I connect to the God force within the Sphinx. So maybe you want to image the Sphinx today and see what comes up for you. The card that came out is Marco. Marco Polo. That comes up in my sand art. I can't remember everything about it last night, but it ends up with basically the twins and it going to their separate corners. It's like, you know, they're both pouting in their separate corners, but they're together, because I was seeing twos everywhere. So they're there, just kind of transmuting some last wounds. Marco's number 47, which is that Seven of Cups. And with Marco Polo, they may be separate, but they're calling out to each other, okay? So they can find each other. And Spirit's connecting with me. So 47 is the Seven of Cups. It's about options, but it's people think it's about illusions, but it's really about your dreams. Seeing the illusions are the people with the masks, the people who are a snake and not your true friend. Those are illusions, not your dreams. Your dreams are what are real. The heaven in your eyes. Okay? It's only an illusion if you don't believe in heaven, right? Which is basically 5D. So we have this 4711, which is very spiritual. It's the 11 of the visionary. Have the visions. Allow them in. What are your choices? What are your options? What do you love to do? Master Marco says he represents the highest galactic confederation of our solar system, the capital of which is on Saturn. He liaises with Commander Ashtar of the Intergalactic Fleet to bring us the wisdom and knowledge held by stellar cultures. He also assists Hilarion on the fifth ray of technology, science, and knowledge to enable people to expand their higher mental abilities and develop spiritual technology for the future. Your guidance is to open your mind to communications and connections from other star systems and universes and ask Marco to assist and protect you. The affirmation is, I am open to wisdom from the stars. So if you open up to the Sphinx today, you may actually get some of this information. So that's my guidance for today. It may actually be technical. You know, often in my codes I'm getting a lot of technical information and scientific information coming through. So allow yourself to be open to that. Alright, for the past life deck, here we go. It's 4044. So maybe something's stability, some stability stuff coming up in this deck. Take a deep breath, let it out. For the Divine Masculine, Organic Divine Masculine, Feminine Twin Flames. What is the guidance? It came right out. Asia, we just got this one. The bottom of the deck is Persecution and Inquisition. Okay, someone may be judged today. You know, the Divine Masculine being called a nutcase. So bring up wounds of being hung. Okay, because the Hangman also came up. The card that came out is Asia. Okay, and being stern. Didn't we just talk about that? Sometimes the teacher needs to be stern to get their point across. And this was someone being very confident, not arrogant, but confident. Having their yellow, their solar plexus protection across their heart. Their solar plexus, okay, across to the right hip. Okay, so covering the liver and the kidney as well. Okay, so it's protection of yourself, being confident, shining your light. Sometimes you need to be stern. Doesn't mean mean, it means stern or silent. And this came up too. If someone approaches you and yells at you, what are you going to do? What feels good? Do you want to be yelled at? No. Walk away. Okay? You don't need to feed into that energy. But this is Asia also. It's very about that culture, about being very disciplined. And so maybe it's calling you to be in your discipline today. And I'm seeing Sphinx energy in this as well. So go into the Sphinx. Okay, meditate on the Sphinx, see what it brings up for you as far as persecution, inquisition, and Asia. Okay, what happened to you in a past life in the Orient? Okay, in the different dynasties. I know the Tang dynasty always used to come up for me, especially when we used to drink Tang. It always made me think immediately of the Tang dynasty, the Tsang dynasty. For the Journey of Love, for the Organic Divine Masculine, Divine Feminine, take a deep breath, guys. And it was interesting with the stability stuff, because that really was, you know, about self-discipline. It's all about structure and stability. All right. So Journey of Love, what is the advice for the Organic Divine Masculine, Divine Feminine, Twin Flames? That was a good one. Okay, what's coming up? What's the advice? What is the advice for the Organic Divine Masculine, Divine Feminine, Twin Flames? What is the advice? Perfect. The bottom of the deck is 23 across the waters. These are very emotional waters. Okay, so crossing the waters, getting over your emotions. And 23 is the King of Wands. The card that came up, the only card that the Divine Feminine got today was She is the Moon. Okay? So it's all about the Divine Feminine emotions today. And the cycles of the moon. Okay? Are you being affected still by the cycles of the moon? By your period? All of these kind of things. It's the 21, it's the world. It's saying end those things. 21 is the world. It's the end of that cycle. You no longer need to be ruled by the moon. You no longer need to cover yourself up. Whether that's physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, it doesn't matter. You no longer need to wear a mask. 21 is that 3 of self-expression. Express yourself just the way you are. in your nakedness. The cycle is complete. It's really pretty. If you notice this again, there's a lot of white in this card, just with some pastels in it. It's really beautiful. It's about doing your chakra rays, going into the vortex, staying at 0 point. Okay? So 21, all about self-expression, completing. Going out into the world, expressing yourself to others. Traveling. Okay, so, let me go with the wrong one. Okay. She is the moon. It says, the light of the moon ebbs and flows. The wisdom of patience is not about waiting around for something to happen rather than getting up and getting it done. The wisdom of patience is that of the gardener who consults the lunar calendar. The right timing promoting growth, planting when there's fertile soil, and allowing the soil to rest and replenish when it needs to. You're being asked to check in with your timing. Is now the time for action or time for rest? It can quickly change, just like the phases of the moon, and Spirit's been connecting. If you're unsure, so it's entering the phases of the moon coming up, okay? If you're unsure, that's okay too. Perhaps you're waiting for more light to reveal the way. As the moon grows full, as we are in now, all things come in time. Your message comes through this oracle. Your manifestation is unfolding in perfect timing. If you feel something isn't happening fast enough or is happening quickly and you are unsure if you're ready, be assured all is well. If something is not clear to you and you would like it to be more so, the clarity you seek will come to you. Do not worry. Do not try to force the insight. Just be with what is happening now and trust. You are moving and growing and all is well. Soon you will see that for yourself, just as the moon grows full and revealing, even in the midst of the deepest night. So it's about trusting your intuition, but also if someone's confusing you, not allowing others to rush you into a decision. Knowing that it's okay to not make that decision now. If you're confused and you don't know an answer, then let it be. Don't decide at that moment. Maybe it just requires sleeping on it. If it's confusing you, it's probably something that's not being in its truth. And therefore, you're saying no, because you're only saying yes to things that are in their truth. The poem reads, waiting. These moments are precious, like jewels on the crown of life. They beckon my heart, forming memories that sparkle with joy, and like the longing of a sweet caress, they draw me near, melting into one, showing what is possible on the journey of life, waiting for the seasons' change. Okay? So instead of allowing the cycles to rule your emotions, use the cycles as a guiding light. When are the best times to do things? To start, to finish, to plan, whatever it is. Okay? Just go with the flow. The energies are going to naturally feel that way as the moon rises and as the moon sets. Okay? So trust your knowing and stay in your present moment. Stay grounded at 0 point. So I'm just reminding you to meditate, 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 ground, 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 drink your water, get your rest, okay? And do everything you can to make you feel your best. Not judge yourself. And just rise and be loved.